Today, Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco said at a cybersecurity conference here in New York that the Justice Department's investigation into efforts by Trump and his allies to overturn the 2020 election won't be deterred if the former president declares his intention to run again. And this is important to emphasize here because this comes really in the wake of some, significant and multiple reports suggesting that Trump might soon declare his intention to run again in 2024 in an attempt to shield himself from prosecution. Monaco's remarks also came, of course, just hours after Rachel here on this show last night presented a copy of a memorandum Attorney General Merrick Garland sent to all Justice Department employees back in May, saying specifically that in essence, no one was allowed to investigate anyone connected to a presidential candidate without his expressed permission. Joining us now is former U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Alabama and co-host of the Sisters-in-Law podcast, Joyce Vance. Joyce, it's great to see you again. Thank you for being here tonight. Let me start by getting your reaction to Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco saying today what I think a lot of people wanted to hear and know, that the DOJ will continue its investigation of Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election, whether the former president runs in 2024 or not. How reassuring is that statement?
So I find it to be very reassuring. I think that this is a reaffirmance of the speech that the Attorney General made on January 5, when he said that the Justice Department would follow the evidence and chase the facts, no matter who was implicated, no matter how high up they were. And I took that at the time as a clear statement that the department would not flinch if it turned out to be the case that the former president was implicated for criminal conduct. I hear the Deputy Attorney General's statement today as being a reaffirmance of that, a commitment that no matter what the former president's status becomes as a candidate, that DOJ will continue the work it has begun.
Last night, I'm sure you saw Rachel showed a copy of an election sensitivities memo that Garland sent to DOJ employees back in May, pretty much saying no one is allowed to investigate anyone connected to a presidential candidate without his permission. I know you have thoughts on this. What might they be?
So I think it's really understandable that seeing a Barr memo being carried over into this administration would raise alarm. But I don't have that level of concern around this memo. Career prosecutors know that if you want to open any investigation of this nature, you've already got to go through something called the Public Integrity Unit up in Main Justice in Washington, D.C. for prior permission and approval. And that's not just a check the box kind of approval. It's important for prosecutors and the folks in Main Justice to have a back and forth, to talk about the evidence, to make sure that allegations are really providing a strong basis for opening a case. So what this memo does is it's actually more protective of candidates and campaigns. There's no political bias in this memo. It simply adds to those already existing requirements, the requirement that the Attorney General be in the loop and that he or she as well have the ability to look over the evidence. And at the point where a case is being opened, that they're involved in that decision-making process. It seems to me that this is more restoration of rule of law and DOJ is back to business as usual than anything else. I've heard folks say that, well, this sort of a memo could be used by a future attorney general who's not as scrupulous as Merrick Garland in a really bad, malicious way. And while that's true, if we have an attorney general in the future who's inclined to behave that way, whether this memo is in place or not, they'll certainly do whatever it is that they're intent upon doing. For now, this signals to me as someone who's been involved in over 25 years at DOJ with this sort of ongoing election work, that the commitment remains in place, that DOJ's job is not to interfere with elections. DOJ conducts its investigations in a way that's respectful of American voters' right to determine the outcome of elections. And you'll remember, Eamon, that one of the real problems at the end of the Trump administration was Trump trying to corrupt DOJ and going to the acting Attorney General Rosen, who told him persistently, there is no fraud here. And Trump said, just say that there's corruption and I'll take it from there. You know, don't worry if there's really evidence. You just say it and I'll keep going. This is the kind of memo that keeps a president from corrupting DOJ. in that sense. It keeps the president from going to some sort of rogue actors. This is, I think, ultimately good, but DOJ has a lot of work to do when it comes to helping the public regain confidence in their operations and explaining the processes that they go through so that we can have that confidence.